to redefine who you are. Everything that you thought you were in the past, ask God, let go of that. When you enter the chamber of the Most High, let go of who you think you are and ask God to redefine you. Redefine me. We call it a transforming of the heart. So we renew ourselves by asking God to redefine me. And what you'll find out when you ask that is that you're going to be a little bit closer to God, and a little bit closer to God. And one day you're going to find out that that which I seek is seeking me. I am actually looking to be more aware of my true self. That takes courage in the little things. It takes a lot of courage. Sometimes those big things are easy, especially if we're depressed. You know, it's kind of suicidal when we go beyond what we know is good for us. It's some of the things that is really difficult to say no to take courage, is to say no to addictions. And you know, it is so human to have addictions, and sometimes we have addictions and we don't know it. Sometimes people are addicted to religion because they're using it as a crutch to not open up to themselves.
Amen.
God is here because you are here. Invite that presence in your heart no matter where you're at. No matter where you're at. Invite that presence in your heart. The sanctuary of God lives in your heart, deep within your heart. Another thing it takes courage to do is to say no to old thought patterns and beliefs that keep you down.
Amen.
Because sometimes we get comfortable with what they are. You know, if we get comfortable with, even in unity, some of the old ways of thinking. You know, one of the things that Charles Fillmore said is that I reserve the right to change my mind. That's wise. It may seem wishy-washy to some, but what it does is opens up God's wisdom for a better look, a fresher look at the way things are. And so if you get so attached to thinking that you know what's good for you, you're actually closing yourself off. So what I'm really saying is that in every moment of the day, if you feel the presence of God guiding and directing you, and you feel that presence stretching you, then you're going to be open to a different path. A different path. You know, years ago when I was in martial arts, the one thing that they taught us was that always be open to change. Never commit to something without also committing to the possibility of change in direction. Because once you commit to something, you are bound by it and you will suffer by it also.
Amen.
You will suffer whatever consequences if it was a mistake. But if you're always open and saying, this and better, God, this and better, bring me this and better, my highest and best no matter what it looks like, and take the idea of what you think it looks best at and let that go. Let that go. Jesus said, your will, not mine, be done. This is really what we're talking about here. Surrendering to God's will. And surrender is so tough for us. It is so tough for us. Especially nowadays, everybody's got their solid ideas of right and wrong.
Amen.
That's what gets us into trouble out here nowadays. Right and wrong. It's a judgment, isn't it? It goes back to Adam and Eve. Good and evil. No one is good but God, says Jesus. Good and evil. So what does that do? In order for us to experience the good, we also have to experience its opposite. That's why we see such a dichotomy. That's why people ask, why is there so much good in the world, but then there's so much evil? It is better to just let life come as it is without judging it as good and evil. It is what it is.
Amen.
God is God. God is God. Let God be God through me. That should be our mantra. Let God be God through me. Not judge it, but see it as an ever-evolving dynamic, because this is what life is.
Amen.
If you look at it, nature teaches us. What life is teaching us is that it is always evolving upward. If you look at the way nature and species adapt to things, and then you come out of there. I was just looking at this lizard. I think it's the gecko, right? Insurance lizard. And it adapts. I seen this one where it adapts, looks like a leaf, and another where it looks like a tree. It just changes colors according to the environment that it's in order to protect itself. Well, if you look at yourself and your own evolution of consciousness that way, you can see how open you would have to be to a greater truth within you. The other one is more difficult, it takes courage to do, is to forgive. It's one of the most difficult ones that we have. And you hear people talking about radical forgiveness. Well, it's hard to do regular forgiveness, much less radical forgiveness. You know, but really what we're talking about here is a new way of looking at forgiveness. In Unity we teach that when you forgive, you're not forgiving a loss, because there is no real loss, there's only a perceived loss. And so when you change the way you see forgiveness, you're really not forgiving anything that somebody did to you. You're changing the way you look at that.
Amen.
There is no loss.
Amen.
That nobody comes to the Father except through me. If I accept that as a loss, if I accept that I've been victimized, if I accept that, then I have a loss. If I go to the Gandhi consciousness and I realize that no physical prison can imprison my soul, my spirit, then I've empowered myself to say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And so forgiveness really is an attitude of changing and releasing yourself from the bondage, your own bondage that you have within yourself, because you realize that when you're forgiving, you're releasing yourself because you have resentments, right? Why else would you have to forgive anything? Because you've resented something that happened to you. You see it as a loss. Somebody took something from me, so I have to redeem that loss. But what if there wasn't a loss? What if you could point to physical evidence and say, yes, there was a loss. And you'd be right. But I'm talking about a deeper look at what's going on. Was it really a loss to me? If I choose to see it as a loss, I'm going to experience it as a loss. I'm going to see things differently, and I'm going to feel the suffering that somebody did something wrong to me and now I've got a loss. But I could choose to see it differently. Even Jesus, and that horrific experience of being persecuted and dying on the cross, chose to forgive. He chose to forgive. What a dramatic demonstration of forgiveness and what it does, because on the third day afterwards, he demonstrated the resurrection, which would have not been possible without forgiveness. Forgive 70 times 7, said the master teacher. And so forgiveness and then trusting in God is a source of all your good. This is another huge one for people. The courage to trust in God. When you have massive bills coming in that you know you can't pay, notice that I said you know you can't pay. God doesn't know that. You know you can't pay them. And you choose to put your trust in outer sources instead of putting your trust in God. Now, God may direct you to do things in the material world to take care of that. But if I don't first go to God, if I circumvent that and say, well, I'm gonna go to my loan company, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna go rob a bank, you know? I'm gonna do something that I immediately wants to get rid of this fear that I have, because I have this fear that I'm not secure. I feel like something went wrong, my world is just turned upside down. How did this happen? I go to church on Sundays, you know, I'm a nice guy, but somehow I'm in this situation. So instead of looking at it like that, if we could turn to God and say, God, show me what you need. See, that takes courage, doesn't it?
Amen.
Because a lot of times we want to say, yeah, we trust in God. I go to church, I trust in God. How deep is that trust? Well, at what level does that trust go? Is it just here on Sunday and then on Monday everything's back to business as usual? Or do we go to a level where we stretch ourselves? Because we don't have to go to dramatic lengths like Daniel did or Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We just have to trust a little bit, a mustard seed, as Jesus said. Just a little bit. If I can trust a little bit at a time, and if I trusted that much yesterday, why can't I trust a little bit more today, and the next day, and the next day? Why can't I build on that rock that Peter had? The rock that Peter had was the foundation was faith. Faith. And that's the other thing. It takes courage to know that you're going to be okay.
Amen.
Because we feel insecure sometimes. And I have it, everybody has it. Everybody feels insecure at times. But the first response that you have is so important. The response that says, do I trust in God? Am I comfortable with not knowing what exactly is going to happen in my life?
Amen.
Am I comfortable with that?
Amen.
Because most of the time, we self-destruct. Worry is the most common form of meditation. When we worry, we are praying for that which we don't want. We'd be better off just going to sleep and not thinking at all. So what do? We go into the silence, and we go into that inner chamber that Jesus talked about, and we ask God to guide us through this.
Amen.
We ask God for forgiveness of our own thinking. Why would we do that? Why would we ask God to forgive us for the way we were thinking? It's over and over again in the Old Testament. It's about the way the Israelites were thinking. They were worshiping something other. When they got into trouble, what did they do? They were worshiping something other than God. Instead of putting their trust in God, they were putting their trust in gold, which is money. You know, all these metaphors that were used in the Old Testament, if we are putting our trust other than in God, we are worshiping idols. We are worshiping idols. So we have to forgive our thoughts. We have to forgive, which means really we're letting them go. That these no longer serve us. And from this point on, trust in God. Trust in God. Jesus says in the Gospel of John, peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world gives, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Here Jesus is telling us where to put our trust. Not where the world puts it, but unto you. How many times have we doubted God? How many times have we let our fear overcome us? Say, oh my God, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? If we could just try it. Just try it. What have you got to lose? You have nothing to lose. Just try it. Say, God, I know you got this. What is it that you want me to do? Show me what the lesson is in here. Because 9 times out of 10, what you're going to find out is that God's going to show you with a path of why this thing is coming up in your life. It's happened to me over and over, and it usually has to do with a belief system that you have. When I have thoughts of worry about financial, what comes up for me almost 9 times out of 10, it comes up is there's a belief system about, do I deserve this? Do I deserve to be happy? Psychologists call it upper ending, which means that when you get to a certain level of happiness, it just crashes on you because you feel like you're not worthy for that much happiness. It always comes back to the I am. Who do I think I am? Do I think that I'm the indwelling Christ, as Jesus and Paul said? Or are you still repeating those old beliefs? You know, it takes courage to say no to those things that were passed on from generation to generation about who you are. It takes courage. Jesus displayed that courage because the message he had to the Jews, the scribes and the Pharisees, was not popular. And he's saying the same thing that we're saying here today. And people don't want to hear that. They're comfortable with the way things are. They're comfortable with the struggle. It is so difficult for us to accept our identity. Is one of the most difficult things. But my message here for you today is just try it. Just say, what if I could surrender to God every moment of the day and trust and know that whatever challenges I'm working through, he's there. He's already set his footprint there. He knows before you even ask. He knows what's troubling you. But he's stretching you. He's stretching you so that you will be aware. Because whether you believe it or not, he lives